Mark had just finished paying their monthly bills, and as he glanced at the total of their bank account, a sense of unease washed over him. An up-and-coming bill was looming, one that they had been dreading for weeks. They feared they wouldn't have enough to cover it. Late one evening, he logged into their online banking, and his heart skipped a beat. Their account balance showed an astonishing $900,000. Mark couldn't believe his eyes. He called out to his wife, Sarah, who rushed to his side. They stared at the screen, their minds racing with disbelief and excitement. Could this be real? It was more money than they had ever seen in their lives. But the question was, where did it come from? With a lot of deliberation and late-night discussions, they made the decision to keep the money. They believed that it was a miracle, a stroke of luck that would finally alleviate their financial struggles. They decided to move the unexpected windfall to an overseas account, both to keep it hidden and to safeguard their newfound wealth. Mark, with his experience in the banking industry, had the knowledge to transfer the funds discreetly, leaving no trace. They also closed their bank account and opened a new one with another bank. Little did they know that their decision would set in motion a chain of events that would change their lives forever. Unbeknownst to them, a family in desperate need had been fundraising money for a life-saving operation for their child. Due to a clerical error, the funds meant for this child had ended up in Mark and Sarah's account. In a distant part of the city, the Sanders family had been tirelessly raising funds for their young daughter, Lily. She was suffering from a rare and life-threatening medical condition, and the only hope for her survival was a costly surgery. The Sanders family had sold their house and their business and also reached out to friends, family, and even strangers through a crowdfunding campaign. They reached their goal, and hope was on the horizon. But then, tragedy struck in the form of a clerical error. To their horror, instead of the funds they had painstakingly collected going to Lily's medical needs and up-and-coming surgery, the money had been mistakenly transferred to an unknown account. As the Sanders family reached out to the bank to inquire about the missing funds, they were met with disbelief and heartache. The bank, upon investigating, discovered the error but refused to take responsibility for it. According to their policy, once money was transferred, it was the account holder's responsibility to handle any discrepancies. Mark and Sarah were completely unaware of the turmoil they had inadvertently caused. They continued with their plans, paying all their bills, buying a new house, going on their dream vacation, and living a life they had only dreamt of. It wasn't until weeks later, when news headlines started circulating about Lily's worsening condition and the missing funds, that they realized their mistake. They couldn't escape the weight of guilt that pressed upon their hearts. Every news report about Lily's deteriorating condition was a painful reminder of the decision they had made. They knew that they were responsible for the Sanders family's anguish, and it was a burden they could no longer bear. They knew they had to make things right, but they had already spent more than half the money. One morning, as they sat in their luxurious new home, Mark turned to Sarah, his eyes filled with remorse. "We have to do something," he said with a heavy sigh. "We can't keep this money knowing that it was meant to save a child's life." Sarah nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "You're right," she agreed, her voice trembling. "We need to find a way to make this right." Mark and Sarah's desperation to right their unintentional wrong continued to grow as they witnessed the Sanders family's struggle. Lily's surgery, a glimmer of hope for her recovery, had been delayed for weeks. With the help of the media, the Sanders family had managed to gather a significant amount of donations. However, they were still $300,000 away from the necessary funds. Late one night, Mark and Sarah sat together, their hearts heavy with remorse. They knew they had to take action, even if it meant sacrificing their future nest egg. With a sense of determination, they decided to make an anonymous donation from their overseas account. They had $400,000 left from the $900,000 they received. The Sanders family was short $300,000 for Lily's operation and aftercare. Both Mark and Sarah decided to give the rest of the money they had left as an anonymous donation and close the account. The moment they initiated the transfer, a mix of emotions flooded over them. Relief, knowing that they were finally doing the right thing, but also guilt and regret for having spent a significant portion of the money, nearly $500,000, on their new house and dream vacation, among other things. The Sanders family couldn't believe their eyes when they received the notification about the sudden donation. Emily Sanders cried tears of gratitude and disbelief as she read the transfer message, a gift from a stranger. She couldn't comprehend how someone somewhere had been so generous, so selfless. Not only had they received what they needed, but $100,000 more. News of the anonymous donation spread like wildfire through the community. The media picked up the story, with headlines wondering who this mystery benefactor could be. Speculations and theories abounded as people tried to unravel the identity of the generous stranger. Despite the public's curiosity, Mark and Sarah remained committed to keeping their involvement a secret. They watched from the shadows as the Sanders family prepared for Lily's long-awaited surgery, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of what they had done. Lily's condition had worsened during the weeks of delay. Tragically, the night before Lily was about to undergo the life-saving operation, fate took a cruel turn. Her condition took a sudden turn for the worse. The doctors rushed to stabilize her. But despite their best efforts, Lily passed away. The Sanders family's world shattered into pieces, and the community mourned the loss of a young life that had touched so many hearts. Mark and Sarah, burdened by guilt and grief, knew that their actions, though well-intentioned, couldn't bring back the life that had been lost. The consequences of their earlier decisions weighed heavier than ever, and they realized that true redemption would require more than just money. As Mark and Sarah grappled with their guilt and grief over Lily's passing, another storm was brewing. Despite their efforts to remain anonymous, the media had somehow managed to uncover their true identities. News outlets and social media were ablaze with the revelation, and the public couldn't believe that the couple who had made the generous donation were not rich people but of average means. The Sanders family, having heard the news, felt an overwhelming desire to meet the couple who had come to their aid in their darkest hour. Emily Sanders, her eyes still filled with tears from the loss of her daughter, expressed her longing to express her gratitude to Mark and Sarah personally. Mark and Sarah, however, were torn. The weight of their secret bore down on them. They had a choice to make: to meet the Sanders family and accept the praise and gratitude, or to continue hiding and protecting their secret. The pressure was becoming unbearable. In the end, they couldn't resist the heartfelt plea from the Sanders family. They agreed to meet but decided not to reveal the truth about the mistaken transfer. The thought of the consequences, being the most hated couple in the country and facing legal action and prison for fraud, was too much to bear. The meeting was a mix of emotions. The Sanders family embraced Mark and Sarah with tears of gratitude. They thanked them profusely for their generosity and kindness during their time of need. The media and the public hailed Mark and Sarah as heroes, praising their selflessness and compassion. Yet, as Mark and Sarah smiled through the uncomfortable awkwardness, the weight of their secret pressed upon them. They knew that the longer they kept this truth hidden, the deeper the web of deception would become. The dilemma was excruciating. Should they reveal the truth and risk everything, or continue to play the role of heroes and saviors while living with the guilt of their actions? As they left the emotional meeting with the Sanders family, Mark and Sarah were left with a heavy heart, knowing that their choices would shape their future and the lives of everyone involved. In the days following their meeting with the Sanders family, Mark and Sarah found themselves trapped in a moral dilemma. Public adoration and media attention continued to grow, painting them as selfless heroes. Yet the weight of their hidden secret grew heavier with each passing moment. Mark and Sarah couldn't escape the haunting dilemma that gnawed at their conscience. The more they were hailed as heroes, the more they felt like imposters. They knew that if they continued to keep the truth about the mistaken transfer hidden, they would forever live a lie. Together, they decided it was time to confront the painful truth. With heavy hearts, they arranged a meeting with the Sanders family once more. This time, they knew they had to reveal the painful truth. Emily Sanders, her eyes still filled with grief over the loss of Lily, greeted them with a warm smile, unaware of the storm that was about to unfold. As Mark and Sarah hesitated, struggling to find the words, Emily sensed something was amiss. "Is everything all right?" she asked, concern etched on her face. Tears welled up in Mark's eyes as he finally spoke. "We need to tell you something that will change everything." Mark continued, his voice quivering. "We are deeply sorry for what we've done, but we need to be honest with you." He paused, then took a deep breath and suddenly changed the course of his words. "We are sorry we didn't donate the money sooner. We feel guilty, and we can't help but wonder if things might have been different if we had acted sooner." Emily listened, her eyes filled with understanding and compassion. She reached out and took Mark's hand. "Please don't blame yourselves," she said softly. "You are wonderful, generous people who have hearts of gold. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for everything you've done for us." Mark's gaze shifted from Emily to Sarah's pregnant tummy. Sarah was trying to hide her shock and realized that Mark couldn't reveal the truth in that moment. They realized the immense weight of their secret and the profound impact it could have on their own child's future. The decision not to reveal the truth hung heavily in the air, and it was a choice they knew they had to live with. Mark and Sarah continued to be hailed as heroes, even though they knew the truth they were hiding. They faced public scrutiny, but their decision to protect their child's future was something many could empathize with. In the end, Mark and Sarah's decision to keep their secret weighed heavily on their conscience, but it was a choice made out of love for their unborn child. They didn't want him or her to grow up without parents, branded as the child of one of the most evil couples in the country. Their story serves as a reminder that sometimes the most challenging choices are the ones made out of love and a desire to protect those we hold most dear, even when it means bearing the weight of our own guilt. And so the tale of Mark and Sarah, Emily her husband, and Lily leaves us with a question to ponder. What would you do when faced with a moral dilemma that could shape the course of your life and the lives of those around you? If you enjoyed this story, then I know you will enjoy the story about a young man asking his girlfriend to marry him, only to find out that they are twins, a very emotional story. Until next time, bye for now.